Dagda of Augusta Fulcherov is Mission Beag. Hello, and you're very welcome. I'm the little storyteller, and welcome to another Patreon Insider. We have hit the mid of the month, and it is the mid March 2021. And the story I have is it's a favorite of mine, but it's an interesting one from the point of view of hospitality. The story is called Where No Side Exists, and I wrote it quite a while ago based off a communication. It was actually inspired by my community. One of the main questions that I receive often is the concept of Irish hospitality and how that really has informed the culture of Ireland even to this very day. Um, for anyone who isn't aware, in the old kind of social norms or even laws, there is this underlying cultural concept of hospitality where someone could approach a home, a building, an area, and they could request hospitality, and then the onus would be upon the landowner, the chieftain or whatever, or the brewer in this circumstance, to provide them a safe place, to provide a safe place for a night's rest and a meal. And so that's what's well understood about it, but there's not a lot written about it in the Irish lore, and there's this kind of other kind of instances where it's used very favorably but then used unfavorably, and one of the best examples of that is I believe it's one of the champions of Ulster, when there's the Nisha and Grania. No, that's the Leinster saga. Sorry, there's two stories that are very much the same in the Irish kind of stories. It's Nisha and Grania, where they flee from elderly Fionn McCool, but then there's also Deirdre and the Sons of Ushnach, and Deirdre kind of falls in love. This is what, yeah, they're fleeing from Ulster, so Deirdre is this Ulster like individual who falls in love with a warrior and just like runs away with him, whereas she's betrothed to one of the kings of Ulster, and so Fergus MacRoth, one of the great heroes there, takes them and he flees with them to protect them. But Fergus has a gas on him, a gesh, which is a kind of a otherworldly prohibition to not break. And so his one is particular that he cannot decline hospitality if it's offered to him. And so it all kind of falls apart because they can't really like tackle Deirdre and her fleeing lovers because of this champion of Ulster who's there, but someone kind of offers him hospitality. Fergus is then compelled to stay an extra night under the food and drink and the hosting kind of circumstance, and it's in that gap where the lovers are caught up with, and so it's one of the tragedies, the great tragedies of the Irish sagas. But this area of hospitality, where like if you're offered, it is you live in someone's home, you were brought in under their home, and you were fed, you were catered, you were cared for, and so it has always kind of been part of these lore and these stories. And a lot of people still speak of Irish hospitality today. People who travel, tourists into Ireland, often kind of go back home saying, "Oh, well, it was so welcoming. The hospitality was amazing." And I like to believe personally that it is still some of that ancient culture kind of coming through today. But there's no kind of lore definition of exactly what hospitality is. But we do have some more information around it. So not everyone is under obligation to offer hospitality, because it would actually come down to your status or your position within the ancient Irish society, your obligation in regards to hospitality. So a regular layperson would be under no obligation to accept anyone into their house. But the brewer, which was the kind of upper echelon, the kind of highest class of farming, was a brewer. So it was a landowner who, actually the specifics were that you would have to have a house at a crossroads, and you'd have to own a substantive herd of cattle, and those would then like dictate your wealth or your status. And then if someone came to you, you'd have to accept them if they came requesting hospitality, you couldn't turn them away. The same applied for chieftains or kings. Again, that upper status, those two people who had wealth were not allowed to decline people's requests for hospitality, for safety, for food and drink. Um, Other things to be aware of, other things that we know from the information is there's a piece of information in the law tracts. The Brehons were the kind of Druid subsect who specialized in law and judgment. And so under the law tracts, we know that a free man is entitled to no more than 6 pints in under hospitality. So if a free person, now again, there was status of those who were in chattels who were not freemen, but a free person who came under hospitality, again, back in the time frame, we're talking very early culture. We're talking Bronze Age, maybe Iron Age, maybe before that. There wasn't water purification. Like you'd actually get sicker drinking water than you would drinking beer. And so there will be like your meals, all of your food, all of your beverages, like you would have the casks of ales or meads or anything like that at all. But the balance flip side is that you're not under hospitality to drink someone or eat someone at a house and home. You're entitled to no more than 6 pints. Um, so there's a balance there around like the obligations of a guest. One of the other really important parts, and which was the inspiration for this story, is that a brewer was under no obligation to give warriors to a tua. So this upper echelon, this kind of highest character in the farming kind of class within ancient Ireland, had almost like a neutrality, which really, really fascinated me, which is again why this story kind of went to explore that. Because if they're under no obligation to give warriors towards a Tua, then they almost exist like this Switzerland of neutrality or Ireland of neutrality, in that we're not compelled. We don't have to give warriors to a chieftain who's gathering for a particular tribe. Like in other circumstances, if someone isn't a Tua and isn't a brewer, then the chieftains in their area, if they call for a warband or call for raids or call for whatever, there's an onus that you have to give some of your warriors towards that because you're living in the land of that chieftain, but not a brewer. A brewer is able to like say, no, this is me and mine. I don't have to give warriors. So there's this element of neutrality in that like they exist almost outside of certain legal or battle-based structures. And it was really that stimulated the story. So the story is called Where No Sides Exist. And it is this concept where if neutrality is so important and if hospitality is so core, then people, even if they're coming from rival like chieftain lands, rival tuas, if they come in under this place, into this place of neutrality and under the rule of hospitality, they're not people of this king or people of this chieftain or people of this tribe. They're just people. And so there's almost a leveling of the playing field there. There's this like everyone is entitled to food, drink, security. And I have my own personal beliefs around this, but I believe for me that if not for this core concept of hospitality, this core cultural belief that everyone is just people and everyone should be taken care of as a minimum baseline, then community would not have formed. If there was no place where neutrality was held paramount, then how could there ever be conversation? How could there ever be communication? How could we have existed with neighboring to us not going to war every 5 minutes if there wasn't at least one place where conversation was key, where conversation was king? Um, so that's the kind of core concept of the story. There's another couple of lovely pieces in there, pulling directly from the Irish lore, as I mentioned, which hopefully you'll enjoy. And actually, this T-shirt is something that is also inspired by it. This is a shanokle, which is an Irish kind of old words. The Irish for shanokle translates as old words, but they're almost like these sayings or these kind of like cliches that are so fundamental and so baseline to community that they are well understood by everyone. And this says Erska Akela Avarian Nadini. And what that translates to is under protection of each other, people survive. So even here in this well-known Shanokul, which I designed this for Eel&Otter Press. It's one of my favorites, and I was delighted to get it and wear it. But the belief that under the protection of each other, we carry on, we survive, we make it. We as people, we as humans, only carry on because we protect each other, because we look out for each other. And so that concept really comes forward into the story, and being able to kind of have a space where conversation can happen, have a space where, your combat allegiance is irrelevant, and in fact is not to be brought inside the walls, um is a really kind of inspiring kind of thing to be talking about. So I do hope you enjoy this story. It is over on the Patreon for those who support. At the audio was actually done today, so I've done the recording on that. But for the casual kind of like member, the for the various tiers, those who have the written access, it is there available for you quite a while ago. It's called Where No Side Exists. You can look that up in the Patreon. Or if you're supporting me at the audio level, which again, Mila Mahakas, thank you very much for that. You'll have the me recording that audio for you today. I do hope you enjoy it. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you very, very much for all of my patrons supporting me over at patreon.com/Dagda, where I, on Scaly Bug, the little storyteller, explore Ireland's folklore, explore our kind of ancient kind of stories and these cultural narratives and how they inform us, and then express it through a fictional kind of connection, or through my connection to my God on Dagda, more of Ireland. So again, thank you very much. I do wish you all the best, and take care of yourself. And remember, under protection of each other, we exist. We manage, we get by when we look after each other. So look after yourself, and where you can, look after other people. Slán.